Thank you for tuning in to the newest episode of the Plain Bible Teaching Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Soker. This episode is being released on January 12th, 2023. This week we're going to be talking about the lottery. The Mega Millions jackpot at the time of this recording is currently at $1.35 billion. And it will go even higher if there's no winner after the drawing this Friday. Now, when the jackpot in a lottery like this gets insanely high, there are a lot of people buying lottery tickets who maybe at other times wouldn't ordinarily buy lottery tickets. But for a lot of other people, buying lottery tickets is a way of life. They're hoping to pick the right numbers that will instantly transform their life into something better than what they have now, at least in their mind. Is that harmless? Is it just all in good fun? Or is there something wrong with this and something that needs to be avoided? We're going to consider some things that the Bible has to say that will help us answer that question. For links to the story we're talking about, as well as other related materials, check out the show notes for this episode at plainbibleteaching.com/podcast/011223. Now for our story this week. Mega Millions $1.35 billion jackpot is second highest ever. From Newsmax, the Mega Millions prize has grown again to an estimated $1.35 billion after there was no winner of the lottery's latest giant jackpot. The new jackpot drawing on Friday night will be another milestone in the game, Mega Millions said in a statement early Wednesday. Now at $1.35 billion, the Mega Millions jackpot is moving up and making history as the second highest Mega Millions jackpot ever, Pat McDonald, Ohio Lottery Director and lead director of the Mega Millions Consortium, said in the statement. Then the article continues. Despite the game's long odds of 1 in 302.6 million, players continue to purchase tickets as the size of the grand prize grows. When people think about the lottery, especially those who view it favorably, they tend to look at what the prize is, not what the odds are. The odds of winning this lottery are 1 in 302.6 million. That means that if you bought one lottery ticket every minute, non-stop, you never stopped to eat or sleep or work or anything, but you bought one lottery ticket every minute, odds are you would buy a winning ticket about once every 575 years. So it is practically impossible to win the lottery. But so what? Is it harmless fun anyway? Is it an innocent use of someone's money? No, it isn't. I want us to consider 4 points here today. Number 1, covetousness is wrong. This would apply to all forms of gambling, not just the lottery, and there'll be a couple of links included in the show notes that go into this in more detail. But Paul said over in Colossians chapter 3 and verse 5, "Therefore consider the members of your earthly body as dead to immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, and greed, which amounts to idolatry." This greed that he talks about here, he says this amounts to idolatry, that you are putting something in the place of God. Whether it's the money or something that someone else has, you are putting that in the place of God. That is the object of your devotion. And when people gamble, when they play the lottery, that is what they are doing. They are making that money into their God. If it weren't for covetousness, there would be no reason to play the lottery or to gamble. Now, someone might argue with that and say, well, no, it's just for fun. Well, if that's all it is, if it's just for fun, then play without the money being involved. And they might say, well, that's not the same thing. Exactly. It's not the same thing. It involves covetousness. And covetousness amounts to idolatry, and it is wrong. The second point, we are to avoid get-rich-quick schemes. And the lottery is certainly one of these. It's not the only one, but it is one of them. The wise man said in Proverbs 20, verse 21, "An inheritance gained hurriedly at the beginning will not be blessed in the end." When someone obtains wealth quickly, and the implication is throughout or without any work on their part or earning that money on their part, it's not blessed in the end. When we think about those who have won the lottery, and some people do, even though statistically it's not going to happen to you, but some people have won the lottery. Well, for those who have, there are stories all over of people who have won, and then a few years later, they've lost everything. Why? It's because they never learned how to manage their money. They're like the prodigal son of Luke chapter 15, who received his inheritance and squandered everything. He wasted all of it because he didn't know the value of it. He didn't know how to use it properly. The Bible warns us about these types of get-rich-quick schemes where someone gets a bunch of money without working for it, without earning it. That's not the way to become blessed. The third point is that we are to exercise good stewardship. Stewardship is about making wise use of the blessings that we have, which would include money. The wise man said in Proverbs 3 and verse 9, "Honor the Lord from your wealth and from the first of your produce." To honor the Lord from our wealth means to use our wealth in a way that is pleasing to Him. Because after all, He is the one who blesses us with all these things. So we might think that, well, is it a wiser use of our wealth to buy lottery tickets? Or is it a wiser use of our wealth to save and to invest and grow our wealth so that we might have something later? Proverbs 13:22 says, "A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children." He's looking toward the future. He's looking to take care of others, take care of his descendants. Not just see, well, can I get lucky and make millions or billions of dollars by buying this ticket? Statistically, that's not going to happen. He's not going to win. And he won't be able to leave an inheritance to his children's children if he keeps throwing money away at the lottery. Fourth point, we are to work for a living. For so many people who play the lottery, the dream is, what they're hoping for is that they can win in order to avoid work or to avoid having to continue to work. That's what you always hear. They want to win the lottery so that they can quit their job. They don't have to work anymore. Paul said in 2 Thessalonians 3 and verse 10, "For even when we were with you, we used to give you this order. If anyone is not willing to work, then he is not to eat either." If someone becomes rich by winning the lottery, what have they produced that is of any value? Nothing. Which goes back to the point of these get-rich-quick schemes. There wasn't anything of value produced. There was nothing earned. Someone ought to be compensated for what they produce that is valuable. That is a biblical principle. Luke 10 and verse 7, Jesus said, "The laborer is worthy of his wages." And that statement is repeated in different places in the Bible. That is a biblical principle that when we work, when we do something, when we produce something of value, it is biblical and it is right to be compensated for that. But what of any value was produced when someone purchases a lottery ticket and then they get $1 million or $10 million or $1.35 billion? What did they produce? What value did they give to those around them? It is better to earn an honest living than to hope to enrich yourself at the expense of those who are foolish enough to throw their money away at the lottery. But that's what everyone who plays the lottery is trying to do. They are trying to become rich at the expense of those who are foolish enough to also buy a ticket. The wise man said in Proverbs 30 and verse 8, the request that he had was to give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with a food that is my portion. He wasn't desiring what other people had. He desired what blessings God was going to give to him. Now, there are a lot of people who might dream of winning $1.35 billion or whatever the current jackpot is. But we need to be content with whatever God has blessed us with. The lottery is not innocent fun. The lottery preys on those who have little in order to keep them in poverty. And it tempts people to covet after wealth that is obtained at the expense of others. It's not something that Christians should participate in. Instead, we need to work hard, practice good stewardship, and be content with the blessings that we have in this life. Well, that's all for this week. Thank you for listening to the Plain Bible Teaching Podcast. I hope you found this to be interesting and informative and helpful. For links to the story we talked about and other related materials, visit the show notes for this episode at plainbibleteaching.com/podcast/011223. And if you have a moment to rate and review the podcast or share it with others that you think would be interested, that is always appreciated. And if you're listening to this, remember that we are also uploading video versions of the podcast now to the Plain Bible Teaching YouTube channel. So if you prefer video to audio, that option is available to you. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. That way you can, by liking it, let others know that this is valuable content, but also by subscribing, you'll get notified when there are other videos that are released. And if you see a new story that you think would make for a good topic, then please email that link to me at andy@plainbibleteaching.com. Thanks again for listening, and hope to talk to you again next week.